You got Mac and Mac with you here on Birds 365, and we got Mike Gill from down the shore, the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN Radio, and he's got. Are you all out hoodie today, or is that a T-shirt? What are you donning there, big guy?
Arizona State, man.
Oh, Devils baseball.
To find you I went deep into the closet to find you a college I have yet to
nice.
wear yet.
Arizona State, legendary baseball program, I would say.
I was out there at the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Oh, is that when you grabbed the shirt?
Well, yeah, and the baseball team I coach, we basically use the same color scheme and everything.
Oh, I did not know that. We're learning something every day. All right, before we get into all the Eagle conversation with you, how about West Virginia 4-1? They're actually hanging in the conference race in the Big 12.
This is all false hope, Jody. Come on, man. They actually play Thursday night, so I'm hoping that, the Phillies are going to be a conflict, so I'm going to have to be doing a little, checking on the phone and stuff. But
by the way, I'm really upset at Major League Baseball 5:07 start time. Come on, I got to get out of South Philly right at that time. Come on, baseball.
Yeah, I don't like the 5:00. I don't like any sport. We can put it to any sport. I don't like any sport, and football doesn't do this generally, but I don't like any sport that plays your most important games at non-important times. Like, you play in the regular season in a fixed time almost the entire year. I don't like putting a game of optimal importance at a time that is completely out of your routine. Basketball does it all the time too. You put a playoff game, in the middle of the afternoon on a Saturday. It's like, you don't play Saturday.
TV rules all.
I say it all the time. Both of you guys know why this is the case. It's not like they're doing it randomly. They're doing it because they have a very large TV contract, and they're going to air those games as most they can without competition from another game. So that's what happens. You get 5:07 games.
I get it.
Yeah.
But
yeah. In fact, I always tell Jody, I laugh when Sports Business Journal or some of these sports business publications, they always do those lists, top 50 most powerful people in sports. And they'll put like Roger Goodell at number 1, maybe the Premier League leader, number 2, whatever, whomever that is. It's the TV execs, man. They're the most powerful people in sports. That's the guys who signed the checks.
The TV execs are the reason why the Pac-12 has crumbled.
Yeah.
Is non-existent anymore.
Yeah. They get what they want.
Yeah.
Because they spend the most money. That's how it works, unfortunately.
But somebody on the other end has to be negotiating that deal, and Roger Goodell has done a good job getting.
Oh, he's powerful. He's just not as powerful as the guys signing the checks. Those are the most powerful. But I digress. Let's talk about the Eagles, Mike Gill.
5-0, man.
Yeah, 5-0, but there's still a lot of people who think this team isn't 5-0 good because the style points aren't there. Where are you on that scale, Mike? Do you need style points? You need them at West Virginia, but do you need them in Philadelphia in the NFL?
Right. No, I don't need style points in the NFL. I don't. If you went 17-0 and you won 3-0 every week, you should feel pretty good. Your defense would be excellent in that case. You might have some offensive issues. This team is one of the things that is underrated about what this team is doing, and I think they did this very well in the 17 season, is they're dominating the time of possession. While they're not scoring 35, 40 points, they don't have that game where they've just kind of lit up the score. Actually, they did. They scored 35 points in one of the games, and it just felt like they didn't score all that much. But the time of possession thing is why they have been so dominant, and we saw this against the Rams. This looked like a game that was going to be who has the ball last. And the Eagles just never gave them the ball back. They couldn't get them off the field. They extended drives. The third down was huge. They had a guy with, A.J. Brown had a monster game. Goddard had a huge game. They threw the running ball back to the ball to the running back 6 times in the game. DeAndre Swift. How many times did a running back catch 6 passes last year? So the fact that their offense is able to just grind you out, keep you on the field, wear you down, that's going to be a problem for some of these teams. Now San Francisco, I mean, looking big picture, San Francisco's got a pretty good defense. Dallas's defense is pretty good, but I think we've seen that the Dallas team, I think we're seeing is a step below probably the other two. And then there's really Miami. I don't know that their defense is this ferocious defense. You've got them coming up. The Buffalo defense has lost some parts. Kansas City's not really known for their defense as much as they are. They're kind of, an offensive team. So which defense? This Jets defense is pretty good. So which defense on the schedule coming up is going to have the fortitude to go toe-to-toe with you as you're just marching your way up and down the field? Now, eventually you're going to have to put it in the end zone when you get inside the 20s. But I would imagine that will come as this season continues to roll.
Well, I'll tell you one defense that is coming at some point, and it's going to be the game of the year, is the 49ers, because their defense is pretty damn good. I saw them shut down the Cowboys on Sunday night and give them almost no chance. I need to give credit to another guy who hops on with us, not as regular as you, Gill, but often enough. Brandon Lee Gouton. I got these stats from him in his latest posting about the Eagles and the red zone. We all agree the red zone, not as good as it has been, could be so far this year. Red zone possessions where DeAndre Swift was on the field. It has resulted in 5 field goals and 6 touchdowns. Red
I'm
zone
surprised he's been on the field that much. Sorry to interrupt.
11 possessions into the red zone, 5 field goals, 6 touchdowns. Possessions that have gone into the red zone with Kenny Gainwell as the main man on the field. 4 field goals, 1 touchdown, 1 turned it over on downs, and 2 end of games just ran out the clock thereafter. So in possessions where the number one guy has been Swift, 6 touchdowns in 11 tries. When Gainwell has been there, 1 touchdown in 8 tries. John told me all preseason, even up to week 1, when Gainwell got all the carries and DeAndre Swift got 1, that the Eagles trust Kenny Gainwell, that it's a trust thing, that they want him in the high leverage spots, which would, of course, include the red zone. They overall reevaluated who should be the guy who gets the ball most, rightfully so, after Swift did what he did. So they proved to us they're open to changing their mind and reevaluating as they go. Is it time to reevaluate that Kenny Gainwell is a red zone ball carrier for the Eagles?
I think the numbers would suggest that, and I think the numbers suggest that when Swift would be out there, that would be less attention on the others because they've got to put more attention on him. So, yeah, and I think that's one of the things that it will be evolving as the season goes on. We had a good conversation about this yesterday. I was asking Colin Thompson, who played tight end in the league, and I said, when you guys sit in a room, when you're in a meeting, is there a week where the offensive coordinator says, all right, he played in Carolina, Christian McCaffrey, get ready. You're getting the 30 touches this week. DJ Moore, we're going to you a lot. He said, well, not necessarily. Everybody just knows their role. You know what your plays are, and you take what the other team gives you. As the game evolves, they're taking DJ Moore out. All right, McCaffrey, get ready. We're going to start going to you more. I think the Eagles right now are doing something similar. The Goddard, they didn't say, let's just throw the ball to Goddard more. He just was the guy they said, you want to throw the ball to Goddard, get him the ball. And I think inside the red zone, you'll probably start to see teams not being able to focus on things so much as the season evolves. We saw it a little bit with this week with Hurts. They ran the quarterback power draw inside the red zone. I think if they start opening that kind of stuff up a little bit more, that red zone will probably expand a little bit. So I'm not so concerned with their red zone, but you're right. I think having Swift on the field will add another guy that you have to pay attention to, which then when you say, well, what's the defense giving me? They're not giving me Swift. Oh, they're giving me Goddard. So if Swift's on the field, that opens up more options.
By the way, and that's Jody brings up those numbers. Nick Sirianni, I just looked at it yesterday, is 26-6 as a head coach since that 2-5 start, which sources tell me is pretty good. But anyway, he does make mistakes. I spoke all training camp that Kenny Gainwell was going to be the lead back. Week 1, Kenny Gainwell was the lead back. If he doesn't get hurt in that game, he's the lead back in week 2. You may never be in this position if he keeps playing at an acceptable level, but some good, some bad. Like he played in Foxborough. You might not even know DeAndre Swift has been DeAndre Swift at this point. So sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. But when it comes to the red zone, I got to tell you guys, it's to me, it's not about the running back. It's not about the quarterback in the running game. They don't throw the ball enough in the red zone. And everybody has figured it out. And they are playing run first in the red zone. And the Eagles, for whatever reason, don't use their big bodies enough. And I'm talking about A.J. Brown and Dallas Goedert. Sometimes you're in the it's this closed and you got to go. All right, he's got the big body. He's got the big body. Throw it up where only the receiver can get it, and the 5'10" corner can't get it. They don't do that enough. And if you'd start doing that and start having some success, then the running game opens back up. That's what I think the problem. That's what I think the problem.
So, John, let me ask you a question on that front. Difference in play calling? Is that on Brian Johnson?
No, they didn't do it last year either, but they were successful last year. They were tremendously successful with the quarterback run game, especially in the red zone. So everybody adapted to that. How many touchdowns did Jalen have last year running the football? It's like 13 14, whatever.
Yeah.
Tremendous success with the quarterback run game. He only had, I think, 22 touchdown passes. Remember, everybody was, Jalen's only got 22 touchdown passes. Right. And everybody came into this season and said, all right, they're going to run the ball. This is condensed. Let's make sure the quarterback doesn't run the football. They're in 2nd and 11, 3rd and 11. They're not getting anything. And then bang, you're behind the 8 ball. They don't throw it enough in the red zone. That's what I think's going on.
Yeah, now, I mean, you figure that you have A.J. Brown, a guy that you can go one-on-one, high point the ball, go get it. You feel like you could run something one-on-one to him almost every single time.
Now, they did it once, and I forget where the football was. They did it once in Los Angeles. It didn't work out. They tried back shoulder, and they were on different pages, which is bad. And maybe it's bad because they never do it. And they tried the back shoulder.
Who I forget, but somebody came blitz and he jumped up and Hurts had to throw it a little high and A.J. Brown dropped it.
Well, yeah. I mean,
that was a clear touchdown. It was a slant one. Yeah. It might have been against Washington.
There's no guarantee, but you open things up. If you're willing to throw the football, you open up, and that'll help you get back to where you want to be with the quarterback run game, especially.
Well, and John, the game the other day, and Sirianni, somebody asked him about this Monday, I guess, he said it's not about play calling, it has something more to do with like recognizing, and he had Watkins was doing laps in the back of the end zone there, and he just didn't see him. I mean, as the season goes on, does he see that he's wide open there? Because no one's paying attention to Watkins with the other guys on this field. And if he's in there running a good route, he's in the back of the end zone going like this, and he just doesn't get the throw.
Well, yeah, but I hate to kill quarterbacks. I mean, one of my pet peeves is people put film on, and you guys have seen it, where, your progression's on the right side of the field and a receiver's on the other side of the field waving his arms and he's wide open. Well, the defense knows where the progression is. Once you start breaking it, generally goes high, low. And then, if you get to number 3, which most modern teams don't even get to number 3, but it's usually a safety valve pass. So, they're like, the quarterback is got a play in this progression in mind. He's looking that way.
Yeah.
Now, the Quez stuff, when things get off schedule and somebody's wide open, Jalen usually did it with Olamide. Both of Olamide's big catches in Tampa were off schedule.
Right.
He was just running around, making a play, sandlot football. But yeah, the progression thing's a pet peeve. He's not an owl. He can't turn his head. If the progression's one spot, you're not necessarily going to see another spot. And that's every quarterback. That's not just Jalen Hurts. But anyway.
Jason Avant, I saw him on NBC Sports Philly this morning breaking down some film, and they showed you play where if you just look at regular speed in the game, looks like Jalen Hurts overthrew Quez Watkins on a crossing route. And Jason broke it down and said, Quez ran the route short. You're supposed to be able to position yourself in front of the safety, but behind the linebacker. And if Quez had been 2 yards further downfield where he was supposed to be, it hits him right in the chest rather than above his head, and he's got to go up and make a play. So you have to know what the route and where you're supposed to be on the route before you take the quarterback to task for not being able to get the ball where he's supposed to get it. All right, so any fear of the Jets quarterback this week? Come on. Zach Wilson. Tremendous arm talent. I was told by many, including my partner.
Yeah, he does, by the way. You ever see that guy? He can freaking sling it, man. He does have tremendous arm talent. I stand by that statement.
You need more than arm talent in the National.
Oh, that's true. Obviously. But he can throw the football.
Zach is lacking in a lot of other characteristics that you need to be a very good quarterback.
All I'm saying is he can throw the football. That's all I'm saying.
All right. You have fear that this is the week that arm talent comes to the top, and he picks the Eagles secondary apart. I don't. Do you?
Not a Zach Wilson guy. Wasn't out of BYU. Hated the pick for the Jets. Didn't think the kid could play a lick. Arm talent, great. Everything else, awful. Decision-making, confidence, all of it.
Yeah, he's got no confidence.
He's got no confidence. The team doesn't believe in him. They didn't want him. I mean, realistically, they got Aaron Rodgers, and the team was like, thank God we got rid of that clown. And they had to go right back to him, and you see the results. Now, he's gotten a little better. I guess last week he was pretty efficient, but not a lot of yards. They got a great player in Wilson. I feel bad for that guy. I mean, he's got stuck with Zach Wilson, and it's not like this Wilson thing's working out all that well. Hall is a nice running back. Their offensive line is horrendous, and that doesn't help the poor kid. But no, this is a quarterback where in years past, the Eagles would beat up on a bad quarterback and you'd say, well, they haven't played a good quarterback yet. This would be one of those weeks. Their defense, though, is a problem. Their defense is very good, especially in the secondary. So this should be an interesting test in terms of – it might not be an aesthetically pleasing game, but I don't think you should be concerned about the quarterback marching up and down the field on you. You think about what the Rams have. Look at the talent they have at wide receiver. And the quarterback is a very, very capable player. And they had problems moving up and down the field eventually. Now, their line's a problem. I think the Jets line is probably worse. Would we agree?
Well, and they lost Elijah Barrett-Tucker as well to a torn Achilles. So, yeah, it's not a great offense. I mean, that was one of the issues that people kind of looked at with Aaron Rodgers. Was the offensive line good enough? But I got to tell you, you know who loves Zach Wilson? The best GM in the NFL. Loved him. The Jets weren't the only team who thought Zach Wilson can play.
Much like you said earlier in the show, John, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good.
Yes,
correct.
Well, we've documented how many times Roseman has gotten lucky with some decisions, and I'm never been a Roseman.
Yeah, that's part of it. I mean, you do have to get lucky at times, and who knows if he gets here with a better situation?
That's true.
Who knows?
That's true. He has had some challenged offensive coaching over, Robert Saleh, not an offensive guy. They bring in Hackett to run the offense, who was highly criticized for what he did in Denver. I don't know how to read that.
Yeah, how's that looking for you, Sean Payton? You go running your mouth about Hackett and the god-awful coaching job he did. Guess what? Your team's worse under you, pal. What's your answer now, Sean? How bad does Hackett's coaching look as compared to what you're doing with that squad?
That whole thing to me is the most perplexing story in the NFL is what happened to Russell Wilson and now what happened to Sean Payton. I thought for sure Payton would come in there and clean that mess up, and it's been disastrous.
They're terrible. Don't get me wrong, but
they were a team that people thought could win the Super Bowl last year. They got Russell Wilson. They had one of the best defenses.
Well, their whole plan, number one, their whole plan with Nathaniel Hackett was to get Aaron Rodgers.
Okay, well, they ended up with Russell Wilson. Boo-hoo.
Well, yeah, but Nathaniel Hackett couldn't run an offense without Aaron Rodgers. I mean, Sean Payton wasn't wrong about that.
That's fine. I'm saying last year they had one of the best defenses. They had one of the best defenses in the league last year. Their defense is horrendous now.
Yeah, well, that's true, and they've gotten much worse. And moving on from that, he's in Carolina now. The DC down there. Was probably a mistake by Sean Payton. He's never cared that much about defense. He's one of those guys. He's a complete offense. Russell's actually played better this year than last year.
Yes.
Pretty significantly better. So I don't think he's been the problem. But yeah, they're terrible.
Unbelievable.
And that's some karma calling out some other coach. Look, he did a bad job. He did a terrible job. There's no sugarcoating. Nathaniel Hackett was completely overmatched as a head coach in this league, but there's no reason for Sean Payton to say that. Mind your own business. You gotta turn around your own team.
And then he loses to him. I mean, my God.
Yeah. And he loses to him with Zach Wilson. But here's what I'll say about Zach Wilson. Jody, you can talk about this more. He showed signs against Kansas City. Now, I didn't see the Denver game, but they won that game. And maybe it was they were fired up because of the Payton comments. I don't know what went on, but they haven't looked bad for 2 weeks now. Kansas City, he had technically outplayed Patrick Mahomes in that game. Technically.
Yeah.
But that was one of the worst games Patrick Mahomes has had. Now, that has a lot to do with the Jets defense, which is very talented. But he showed some signs. Is that wrong to say?
Overstating it a little bit. They win this past week for 2 words, a reason. Breece Hall ran the ball right.
Well, yeah, he had a big game.
So
he had a big game.
I'm not going to give Zach Wilson any credit for Breece Hall going for $165. And oh, by the way, and that's behind a questionable Jets offensive line. I don't know when Tucker got hurt in the game, but the Jets offensive line hasn't been good just in general this year. This is the only reason why I think this game may be competitive. Eagles should win against the Jets. It's gone from 6 to 6.5 to 7 points, and I think it may go higher than 7 points. This is the best running back the Eagles have faced this year. 5 games. There hasn't been a world beater in the backfield of any of their opponents. New England, Minnesota, Tampa, Washington, probably the kid that they faced this past week was the best running back they played. Any concerns that, the Eagles have done a good job at defending the run, but they haven't been all that challenged by the opposition. This is the best running back they're going to play. Should we be worried about the fact that somebody might run the ball against the Eagles?
I don't think so. We talked about this, I think, with you, John, yesterday. The Eagles lost Javon Hargrave, who's having a great season in San Francisco. He's got 3 sacks. We talk about Jalen Carter, 3.5 sacks. Hargrave's got 3. You lost Hargrave, and his name hasn't been mentioned one time by anybody in the. Oh man, we lost Hargrave. That's why. Yeah, no,
Mike, I asked you about the run. Hargrave wasn't great against the run. Losing Hargrave against the run, upgrade as a matter of fact.
Well, I'm getting. So my point is no, because the Eagles' defensive front got better against the run. They've got Carter and Davis now. So these teams don't even try to run. The Rams barely didn't even try last week. So the Eagles are so much better against the run this year than they were last year. We talked about last year. Yeah, Breece Hall would be somebody you would be concerned about because you had more pass rushing guys. Hargrave's a guy who went after the passer, didn't care about the run all that much. This defensive front and the lack of talent on the offensive line from the Jets, I think it's just a bad matchup. They might try it. They might do what Washington did. We'll run it a lot, but not with a lot of success. Now, he might be a little bit more explosive and give them something, but I wouldn't think that that would be something you should be overly concerned with.
All right, the clock has started on Nakobe Dean, Mike Gill. If he is completely healthy, and I've seen Nakobe, he traveled to Los Angeles, by the way. He looks good. He doesn't look in any discomfort with the foot. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean he's ready, but if he is ready, and I'm going to, for this exercise, I'm going to say he is ready, do you just insert him back in as the middle linebacker?
This is a tough one for me because I like Dean a lot. I thought he was going to have a big impact on this defense, doing a lot of the things that we see Morrow doing. Sacked in position anyway for an interception. He should have caught that interception last week. That's the type of player I thought you were going to get with Dean, that they were going to really try to build stuff and use his talents. I don't know that he gets the bulk of the snaps again. I don't think they just throw him right back out there and you're 100%. But we talked about this, I think, last week with the green dot. Who calls the defenses? How do they handle all that? Is it going to be him and Morrow? Does Cunningham get kind of knocked out here? I would say no. I don't think they're going to go right. He almost is Kenneth Gainwell in this spot where he's going to get some snaps probably, but maybe not right away.
Oof, that makes Nick Morrow, DeAndre Swift. He's played well, man. Nick Morrow's played well.
They've used him well, though. I mean, they put him in good positions. I think Desai has done a good job of, designing or just kind of hiding him and using him.
That's why, I mean, this is the ultimate complimentary game. I mean, he played behind the worst defensive front in football, literally the worst in Chicago. And he's now behind the best, literally.
Yeah.
It makes you look better. But he also deserves credit. And this is where I also give Brock Purdy credit, my Brock Purdy credit. Look, Kyle Shanahan, I talk about it all the time, gets more out of his quarterbacks than anybody else. But Jimmy Garoppolo didn't win to the level of Brock Purdy. So we got to start giving Brock Purdy some credit. Similar to Nick Morrow. Yeah, everybody's better behind this defensive front. So is the Eagles secondary. But they haven't played as well as Nick Morrow, Zach Cunningham, or Nakobe Dean. So at some point, Seth brought this up to me, and I said, "You're nuts. They're going back to Nakobe Dean." I'm starting to doubt myself. He's playing too well. I think they were waiting for the bad game, and the bad game hasn't come yet.
No,
it's a tough decision.
And he wasn't as good last week as he was the week
before.
The week before he was great.
You can't get 3 sacks every week.
Right.
I mean, but he was good. He was darn good. Yeah, it's a difficult decision.
I think what gets underrated too, I mean, he gets the sack, so that pops off the page. What did he do in the other plays? I thought last week you saw 41 around the ball, not to mention, in coverage, he almost gets the interception. I think those plays are almost more impactful. The sack, they're great, but they come from other people helping them out and getting so much attention. I just like the way they've been using them. And you're right. You can only say, hey, I'm going to ask you to do something. And if he does it incorrectly, if he doesn't have the good intuition of when to blitz or, he doesn't read what's going on in front of him. But this guy's done a good job of making plays. And that's all you get. And the other side is he's making plays and he's not the reason why plays are happening. They're not target. You used to see Nate Geary out there and they say, okay, let's go to 47. He stinks. And teams would attack him. Singleton was terrible in coverage. They would go after those guys. Morrow's holding his own in coverage as well. So I think that is something that stands out that doesn't get noticed.
Yeah. Well, I will say, coming out of Washington, PFF had him as the 7th best off-ball linebacker in the NFL. Now he's number 5.
So he went up, actually,
he went up
week.
He went up.
That's pretty impressive. All right, Mike Gill, tell me if this conversation happened, either after all the media was out of the locker room or on the plane on the way home from Los Angeles. I was a little perturbed with Nick Sirianni when he took a backhanded shot at John McMullen, my buddy, and to a lesser extent, you and me. We're not Eagle Beat guys. We're not there every single day. When someone asked him after the game about Jalen Hurts' running ability, he said, yeah, and what did y'all say? He can't do it anymore? Well, nobody said that, Coach. You just made that up. Some members of the media asked, why is Jalen getting less yards rushing this year? I didn't see. I went through every article and I never saw anyone go, y'all said he can't do it anymore. So that got under my skin. But Nick is on record as saying they did tell Jalen that he needs to pick and choose his spots, and they do put his health as a premium thing that the Eagles have to take care of. He ran the ball with reckless abandon this week, like 2020, like it was 2022 again. Do you think there was a conversation afterwards between either he and Brian Johnson or he and Nick Sirianni, and they said, Jalen, we love it. Thank you very much for helping us win a game. But remember what we discussed. You can't be putting yourself at risk. You put yourself at risk a couple times this past week. I thought we were all on the same page here. This is not what we can afford to do with you. Did that conversation take place between one of Jalen's coaches and the Eagles quarterback?
I wouldn't be surprised. And it was almost like Hurts has heard, hey, he doesn't look the same and he's not running as much and he's sliding. And he doesn't want to. And he was like, I'm sick of hearing this. I'm just doing it. And I'll take the repercussions later. Sure. I'm sure they've hammered it home on him is, hey, you got to make sure we get you through this season. We can't get you hurt. And maybe he just was, we all have that moment. I'm going to show these people I can still do this because there were a lot of times in that game we were watching it and said, they haven't done that all season, or he hasn't run like that. There's a lot of times where, there was numerous plays where he lowered, got the extra yards, where earlier this year he was just kind of sliding into second base and living to fight another play. Not so much as on Sunday. What do you have? Double-digit carries in the game. He led the team in rushing.
Yep.
That was something, and I talked about this on my show. I said, DeAndre Swift, second in the league in yardage. He didn't beat Hurts the other day because Hurts played a game that was reminiscent, running the ball that we saw a year ago. But yes, Jody, I'm pretty sure they probably said, not every week can you do that, man. Okay, last week we got away with it, but you can't do it.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think it changes this week because the Jets are really talented. I think it had more to, honestly, and the Eagles say this, so people get mad at me, but it truly is dependent on opponent. I mean, the Rams have terrible linebackers, terrible, and they play terribly. And all of a sudden, you go in to face the Jets, and they have really good linebackers and really good linebackers, arguably. Certainly top 5, I would say, group in the league. And if you go back to New England and Minnesota, and everybody had a spy in Tampa Bay and how good they are, and everybody was spying Jalen Hurts, they weren't doing that. I think it was just like, oh, they're dumb. Let's just do that. I think it really comes down to that. And this week, I would be surprised if we didn't get back to the spy, because the Jets have players who can do that. And I don't think the Rams do. So, and this is where I give the Eagles coaches credit. I think they take advantage of, and they've done that. And that's the most impressive part of the staff to me. They say, all right, this team can't do this. Let's take advantage of it. This week, I think it's going to be back to where we were, and we're going to have that pendulum with why isn't Jalen Hurts running? Well, because Demario Davis is out there. And Quincy, Saints. I'm going back to Jets. Quentin Williams' brother. He's having a great year. Quincy's having a great year.
And Mosley. They got two very good linebackers.
And CJ Mosley
very good.
Is a very good player. Yeah. I mean, I think we're going to get the pendulum, and it's going to be the exact opposite. Why he ran last week? Yeah, it's Rosenboom, and their linebackers are awful. That's why he ran.
Their defense has a lot of young guys playing new positions over there. But
the two worst players, the two worst players graded by PFF were Christian Roseboom, the weak side linebacker, the guy and Michael Hecht, their other linebacker. The two worst players on the field.
Jeez.
I mean, that's why.
This is the I'm gonna give you this week. My player prop would be DeAndre Swift, whatever. Not Swift. Devontae Smith, whatever his over is. I'm taking the over
at both targets, yards.
That's a good
touchdowns.
One. Yeah, because the Eagles are going to be cognizant of getting him the football.
And they were with Dallas Goedert when he got 0 catches week number 1, and they threw it to him 7 times the week thereafter. He made 6 catches, but he only got 22 yards. This week, they threw it to him plenty, and he caught the ball down the field, and he was able to make plays and get yards after catch. New design, do you think, Mike? Do you think they just said, all right, we were smart enough to throw it to Dallas. Now we just need to get Dallas in a better position to make plays and get yards thereafter. Do you think they changed the way
I would imagine you're going to see a lot of Sauce Gardner and AJ Brown. I think that's going to be a fun matchup on that side. And look, by the way, I've had the sauce. It's pretty darn good, actually. They sent me some sauce. It's very good. He's got his own barbecue sauce. Gardner does. So I would imagine you're not going to want to try to go after him throughout the course of the game a whole heck of a lot, which would open things up for Smith, I would imagine. I'm just, Wednesday morning quarterbacking here thinking that Sauce Gardner would get A.J. Brown. He might be matched up on Smith from time to time, but I would think that you're not going after Sauce Gardner, and Smith will probably be the guy that benefits from that. No, I wouldn't say, that A.J. Brown's just going to be completely neutralized in the game, but I think Smith will have a big game just because of the matchup there. You're not going to just not throw the ball because of Sauce Gardner, I think but the Jets secondary is pretty good in general. It's not just him. They got very good safety play.
Their whole defense is freaking good. Quentin Williams is great.
They got a major question mark this week in the secondary. DJ Reed did not play last week.
DJ still hurt.
Yeah, he's questionable for this upcoming week. They have not made a statement. There's been no Jet injury release even estimation yet because, like the Eagles, they haven't practiced yet. But he did not play last week, and he's the pair of those cornerbacks in New York is absolutely comparable to the 2 here in Philadelphia.
But I think Smith would be the guy. But I also think that the Jets, one area you can probably, the Eagles can run the ball a little bit on this team. I would imagine you take some shots there. The kid last week from Denver, now he caught the ball a little bit. McLaughlin, was that his name? Jaleel McLaughlin. He caught the ball a little bit, but they ran the ball with a little bit of success last week.
At Mike Gill Show, follow Mike on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. ESPN South Jersey, the Sports Bash, 2 to 6. By the way, I'll do some business on air, Mike. I'm going to be walking off the field, so I'll probably be there at like 3:05-ish. And I got to beat that Phillies traffic. Got to get in the car, got to get out of there. So you can listen to me on the Sports Bash later. Last one from me. It defensively, this is a respite game, probably. We talked a little bit about Zach Wilson, but my biggest concern with this Eagles team is right up the middle on defense, in the passing game, specifically. And Miami's on the horizon. You hate to look ahead, but your concern with the middle of the field on the defense. So we're talking about slot corner, linebackers, safeties in the passing game. Is it good enough, or does the defensive line have to do it every week?
Well, that's the problem. Yeah, I was going to say it's good enough when the defensive line does their job. They weren't good enough in the first half last week. They were good enough in the second half. Well, what happened? The second half, they turned up the pressure. They got 2 sacks from Reddick late in the game. You got some hits and pressures from Carter in the middle of the game. When they get the whole thing is it's one of those things where the whole defense is predicated on them getting pressure because they know their limitations at the other areas of the field. So if you're telling me, we saw this in the Washington game. The pass rush wasn't good enough. So guess what? Neither was the secondary or the linebackers. And they went up and down the field all day long. I thought what's underrated with Washington is they had multiple. And we talk about this all the time. The Eagles defense is predicated on you're going to have to go on 9, 10, 11, 12 play drives. And those drives are going to have to end up with 6. A lot of times the Eagles give up these 9, 10, 11, 12 play drives that you suck up 3, 4, 5, 6 minutes, and you only end up with 3 points. Well, Washington was able to convert those long drives into 6 points, and that's why they were in that game. The Rams, they could not get those long drives going. They had just, bad throw here, penalty there, something happens here. But no, to answer your question, the Eagles linebackers in the middle of the field, not good enough in coverage, but it gets masked when they're good enough in the pass rush. And a week like this against the Jets, you would hope that their pass rush wins that battle again.
All right, so we're all leaning toward the Eagles getting to 6-0 with a win over the Jets on Sunday. The real question is, can the Mountaineers get to 5-1?
It's a tough one, man. Dana Holgorsen,
Thursday night.
The old ball coach is back. Dana Holgorsen, the Houston Cougars this week, Thursday night. It's funny because my girlfriend went to ECU, and they also play on Thursday night. So we got a third TV in the mix for this. But
ECU, they seem to always play on Thursday night. I feel like Eastern Carolina gets a lot of Thursday night games.
Well, you got that AAC contract, so they throw those.
Temple, that goofball.
I don't like the coach. They're winning right now, kind of in spite. But
where's ECU? Greenville,
North Carolina. Yep, I was just there a couple 2 years ago. I went down there.
Nice. Did you go down there?
Actually, we're going to see ECU play at Navy. If you ever been to a game at the Naval Academy,
Annapolis.
Yep, we're going there next month, meeting up with my guy Colin Thompson.
Yeah, Colin lives down there now.
Yep.
That is as
long as he doesn't get signed. If he gets signed, I won't be seeing him. But
You're out. You're out. You're going to have to go get a T-shirt on your own. Mike Gill, always a pleasure, buddy. Thank you very much for hopping out with us today.
You got it.
Thanks, Mike.
Catch him down the shore on 97.3 ESPN Radio. His show is The Sports Bash, which will have John McMullen on it later this afternoon. So you can catch Johnny Mac again in case you didn't get enough of him today. You got another hour.
I'm also on Damo's podcast. So, you're going to be getting
busy
too much. I'm overexposed, Joe.
And I don't think any of us really want to think about John
McMullen
being overexposed.
Come on. Don't go down that.
McMullen, McDonald, Mac and Mac.
Dark
we
turn.
got Chris Franklin yet to come from NJ.com. So stay right here on Birds 365.